out there. I want to specially welcome you to another edition of the Overview program here on your number one online radio station, Glass FM. And I am your host for today's Sunday, and I'm Minnie Rejoice, and I'm here alongside
Peter Tina.
And on today's edition of the Overview, it promises to be engaging and interesting. And on today's topic, we'll be talking about domestic violence.
Yeah, we like bringing light into every topic, which is overview, right?
Yeah, so today's program will be talking about the domestic violence. And first of all, let's tell you what domestic violence is, because maybe somebody out there might be listening and will be wondering, what does domestic violence mean? So domestic violence is a violence committed by someone in the victim's cycle. It may be from his father, his mother, his or her brother, and so that's why they said domestic violence has to be within the cycle of the victim. This could include the family members, relatives, and any other person closely related to the person just around his or her cycle.
Yes, domestic violence isn't just hitting or fighting or those occasional arguments like that. It's actually a chronic abuse of power. The abuser actually tortures and controls the victim by calculated threats, imitation, and physical violence.
And also, the domestic violence can be in let's say in marriages, and some of the forms of domestic violence are actually physical violence. That's the physical violence. That's the act of, let's say, inflicting harm, or let's say it could be beating, flogging, and maltreatment of the victim in one way or the other, inflicting direct pain like slapping. And also, there's also another one, which is sexual violence. But before we dive into that one directly, we'll be going on a musical break, and when we come back, we'll be telling you more about the domestic violence. Don't go nowhere, it's still Glass FM.
Let's take it back, way back.
They wanna know me. No, they wanna know who we are. Alright, but I'm Frank, the undefeatable rich boy. Wait a minute, let's talk about who we are. Yeah. A lot of people got thinking that we don't know. Yeah. But we know we're the only one who can never fail. Yeah. Yeah, we know.
Thought I would go this far, but God took me up and made me a star. I'm looking so clean like a brand new car. It's obvious, no question, no boy. Say, I don't know how.
Now we believe so. We be the only one we never fail. Now we believe so. We be the type where they speak in tongues. Now we believe so. We be the only one. Type where they speak in tongues, yeah. If you wanna know Jesus is my elevator, what you gonna do? Hop into this escalator. Do what I do if you don't mind. Put your hands up if you feel me. But we know we're the only one who can never fail. Yeah, yeah, we know.
Yo, I'm so free like the bird in the air. I'm flying on the poster, you can find me everywhere. God lives in me, so tell me why I go fear. He has been my helper from day one up to this year. So
now we be this, now we be this, so we be the only one we never fail. Now we be this, now we be this, we be the type where they speak in tongues. Now we be this, so we be the only one we never fail. Now we be this, so we be the type where they speak in tongues. Yeah,
hey, sure, come on.
know the feel.
We know the slip.
Everybody knows
Let's
that
go.
now we be this.
Now we be
Too
this.
much money.
Rocktown.
We know the
A
dog.
rich boy.
Everybody
we know the
knows that now we be this.
Now we be this.
Hey, let's go. We going higher on the bill.
told you before.
Now we be this. Yeah, we be the only one with a good face. Now we be
Now
this.
we be this. Yo.
We be the types with the speakers and comments. Now we be this. We be the only one.
Welcome from that throwback music, and we are still discussing domestic violence. We actually mentioned the forms of violence, that's the emotional abuse, physical abuse, and the sexual abuse. And now we are still discussing about the sexual abuse, which Rejoice is telling us about.
Yeah, and another form of the sexual violence could be tagged as rape. It could be because that sexual violence is actually done without the person's consent.
Yeah.
It could also be known as rape that's been done without the person's approval. And another example of it is that let's say in some homes you can find out that the father is directly sleeping with his or with his children.
Some children like that.
Yes, that boils down to the topic, which is domestic. Within the circle, the father is actually having that intercourse with his children, which is actually terrible and actually very bad.
Yeah, one thing I am actually concerned about is this emotional abuse, though, because sometimes we might be facing emotional abuse and then we don't even know about it. And I just want to bring more light on it. Like emotional abuse is when an intimate partner has continually criticized you, called you names or shouted at you, insulted or driven away your friends, and humiliated you in private or public, or actually kept you from working, and also control your money and all that decision making that you're actually included in. Imagine that.
You can imagine. And you know that emotional abuse actually, you also give the children or the victim affected, you also give them that low self-esteem.
Exactly.
Because they are being abused, so they kind of find it hard to maybe, let's say, speak up or something. They are almost timid most of the
like
times.
that. They also depressed in some
they can't
instance.
just stand out and speak for themselves. They are always, let's say, they feel down or have that low self-esteem. Then there's another one, which is psychological violence, and this one, it causes is a violence that affects the person's mentally. That's the person cannot be able to just come out in person and, let's say, speak for himself. That's is also just like the emotional one that you just talked about. Let's say in public, calling the person name. Maybe you just come out and say you are a useless child.
Just like
you cannot just do anything on your own. The person will just be having that kind of, it's not actually a harm, but it's the use of, let's say, abusive words, whereby the person will just be feeling less of his or herself.
Like
you just find out that the person is kind of, let's say, being pushed away,
and be feeling useless.
Exactly, not really giving that person a sense of belonging in his or her home.
Well, we are going to be diving onto the effect of domestic violence and long-term effect of domestic violence on women, on children, and also adults. Effect on domestic violence, which we are going to be discussing about the violence on mothers, children, and adults. Well, we're going to be discussing about the mother first, which is the long-term effect of domestic violence on women who have been abused. May include 1. Anxiety, 2. Chronic depression, 3. Chronic pain, 4. Death. Then we also have drug and alcohol dependence. That's if you're depending on alcohol for you to be settled and okay. And then we also have malnutrition, which you will not be eating very well. You will just be feeling so down, and then you won't be able to carry yourself along. You'll be having panic attacks. You'll be having poverty too, because you won't want to go out to work or do any other thing.
You just find that like you are being detached from
you
people
just be
out
indoor
there.
And then you don't want to see anybody like that, and then before you know, drugs will come in. And we also have self-neglect, when you actually neglect yourself from so many things. Like you have outdoor games to do, but instead you will just lock yourself inside and then you will do nothing.
Alright, now we'll be going on a time out, and when we come back, we'll be telling you more and more about domestic violence. It's still Glass FM, and I'm your host, Sunday Nani Rejoice, alongside
Peter Tina.
Our goal is to create a society with moral and godly standards by using the influence of our well-built programs to pass the right message. Glass FM, your number one radio station.
Welcome back from that time out. And before we went on the time out, we were still talking about domestic violence. And these are some of the effects of domestic violence on the victim. Because you find out that when a victim is being, let's say, being flogged, being slapped, they tend to have that kind of form of violence in their self also. They get to turn aggressive actually. Because when you are being slapped, being hit, you find out that you tend to just react to things, no matter how little. Maybe you just go out there, someone is trying to talk to you, just find out that you are just aggressive because of how you are being treated in one way or the other. Then another one is that the victim here, he tends to abuse drugs.
Exactly.
Let's say you
just to calm the nerves, and then
you just find out that you just go out there and start abusing drugs in order to feel better. Yes. But one thing I want to tell you out there is that the drugs won't make you feel any better. Because you find out that at the end of the day, drugs are going to make you feel. It's also become a form of addiction to you, and it's actually not good for your health. Then another one is that the victim tends to have that suicidal thoughts. You find out that you just want to kill yourself. Exactly. You just want to kill yourself so that you will just be, let's say, out of the picture of all the things that have been happening to you. Then another one is the inability to trust. Because you find out that when that domestic violence is being done to you by a direct circle, that's from your family, your parents, your brother, your sister, you find it hard to trust someone out there, because you be like, what if, since this is being done to me by my immediate family, somebody out there might actually even do worse? So you find it hard to, let's say, trust someone out there. Also, you have that emotional detachment. Yes. You're not able to connect to people emotionally. Yeah, almost all the time. Just, let's say, abstaining yourself from people.
You feel like they don't understand you.
You just want to be alone.
Well, I would like us to discuss more, and also the agency and shelter that actually accommodates those people being treated badly. We have the men's program and give therapy for abusers. That was the outpatient service, includes support groups. That's vocational counseling and job training. The outreach to high schools and the community. We have the court advocacy and mental health services or references. We have many agencies have funding for practical matters, such as locating temporary shelters, and if none are available, putting women and their children and also adults up for a hostel for a few days. So Rejoice actually is going to be telling us about the solution of domestic violence, because if there is a problem, we also have a solution. So we need to know the solution, Rejoice.
Okay, some of the solutions here is I should be able to speak up. Don't keep it to yourself. Just as Tina has just called some of the agencies, you can be able to reach out to those agencies.
Exactly.
You can be able to find out someone, a counselor or so, in which you can be able to trust and tell him or her that this is what I'm passing through, and they can be able to proffer solutions.
That's where
like
research is actually included.
Yeah, and another one is that you can be able to reach out to the nearest human rights, because human rights are in charge of this. They are there to stand out for humans that are being inflicted with such things like rape, domestic violence. So you can reach out to them, and in one way or the other, they can see or proffer solutions to see how they can be able to save you from that pain that you are being inflicted upon. And another thing is that you can be able to meet some of the counselors. They can be able to direct you through other channels in which you can be able to reach out to, and they will bring all these things to book.
Exactly. The conclusion actually for us to, let's just say our take home actually for me is that a person's spirit is priceless, And a broken spirit is cost more than $1 billion. That's, if you know what $1 billion is, it's actually cost more and more of it. So Rejoice, do you have any take home for them?
Yeah, I want to speak to you out there. No matter what you are going through, no matter the violence in which you are being inflicted upon, please try to speak up to someone. Don't die in silence. Be able to reach out to such agencies that can be able to bring you out of this situation in which you are being facing. Please speak up. And before we go, we'll be calling our social media handles in which you can be able to connect to us directly. On Facebook, you can meet us at Glass FM or Glass FMs. Then on Instagram, it's at Glass FM Radio Station. On Twitter at glass_FM. And the email which you could send your emails are glassfm.tv@gmail.com. And then the phone lines in which you can call us directly are +234 812 880 345 I hope you had an amazing time with us here in the studio.
Yes, exactly.
So I want to wish you a very good night's rest. Stay safe and stay out of trouble. Bye from all of us from Glass FM.
Bye-bye.
Bye.